Hello, I am Jody Wolf. You're watching Expoz, December 5, 2016 at 12:24 a.m. And topic is Black Market Dispatches. This particular subject, I have two parts: Syrian refugee girls and their daily horrors. I was blown away when I watched this, and then I watched it over, and then I took 2 hours typing because I'm a very slow typer, and on my phone at that. Let me get with it. A woman went undercover and interviewed a club owner in Lebanon. He was a pimp as well. The girls that flee Syria, and many are Christian, if they stay in Syria, they will die. They flee only after their home was bombed or the parents were killed, and they had no other way to go except to Lebanon. And once in Lebanon, they are illegal. They cannot work, so they ask other girls that they see. And they were told that they would have to do house cleaning or prostitute. Those who chose house cleaning most always are raped. Those are also under contract and are forced to stay. If they try to leave, they'll be beaten, and it gets worse from there, even death. Whoever points the girls to housekeeping are most likely cab drivers because they'll be paid by the homekeeper or the homeowner. Thus, the reason for the contract that the girls will have to sign. And almost always, these girls never get paid up. They're so-called owners only when the girls are used up or too old to be useful or to fulfill the homeowner's needs. Only then will they be released. Here's the other side of that coin. When the Syrian girl flees Syria, and wherever they end up, it's most likely always bad. And ISIS, Muslim Brotherhood, or Al-Qaeda will kidnap these girls if they can get their hands on them. And they'll keep them for sex slaves, or in rare situations, as we well know, they'll be trained to fight alongside their kidnappers. Of those who fight, they most always fight on the front lines because their life is not important. One girl chose housekeeping, says she preferred beatings over forced sex. She did not know how bad it was going to be. She almost 100% of the time, every girl will get all three: the house cleaning, rape, and regular beatings. So, as the Quran tells them, these things must be done. Muhammad wrote of sex and abuse to keep the woman subservient to their husbands and or owners. That's the Quran, guys. That's Sharia law. That's Muhammad. That's Allah. That's 4 pieces of crap right there. The Quran is good for one thing: a book of toilet paper, as far as I'm concerned. One wealthy nightclub owner, the man who most of the time gets first pick of the girls who fled Syria. The club owner agreed to a hidden interview. He didn't know it was being recorded, and certainly didn't know that it was videoed, but it was. But out of respect, still, the person behind the camera, the lady that interviewed him, did not show his face. And they got her through hidden doors and not to be seen by anyone. The woman who did the interview also had the hidden camera, as I mentioned, and had the guy's face been shown, then I don't know what would have happened to him. But I mean, they can't help if they watch this, they're going to see him because he's very distinct. He's from here down, he's fat. He's a green and black striped shirt. And you can see the bottom of his face has a beard kind of like mine. He said before the Syrian refugees, his best girls went for $700 per 3 hours. He said each girl brought him $1,000 a day, some on 2 calls, and some it would take 10 calls for him to get that $1,000, therefore shorter visits. Then he said when the Syrian girls came, there were too many, but he took all he could take in his house, all the places he could put them and hold them. He was somewhat irritated because of the number of the girls. He said the prices of the girls dropped sharply to prostitute out, and he had sent many out for $50 apiece. Now his best girls bring in half the normal price. He said they were allowed out only during a call. They could not leave that room that they were in for any other reason. They had to be picked up. They had to be returned by cab. He fed them. He gave those who were not on call. They had chores. They had cleaning, his club, his home, anything else he wanted. And she asked him how he got the girls. He said 1 brings 2, and then 2 brings 5, and it's just on and on. He said the 1 gets here by a cab driver that brings to me because I give him some money for doing so. And when 2 goes out and brings 5, they don't get any money because they've already been theoretically paid for. And so this is interesting, guys, what I'm about to say here. She then said, don't you feel there is some exploitation, especially since these girls don't have any opportunities? He responded with a question. Is there anything in the world without exploitation? I take a cutoff for my efforts. I'm responsible for anything that happens to these girls when she's with a guy. And she asked him, could the girl walk away if she wanted? And he said, no, she cannot. We have a contract, and between her and me, she cannot leave if it hasn't ended. If I send her to someone and she says no, then he never allows the girls to have sex in his business anyway, but she cannot say no on a call regardless. If they ask, she says no, tough gal, get in there and do it, whatever you need to do. So he forbids a no. He never allows the girls, again, like I said, to have sex in his club. Bad for business, the smell. Now, the last question between the interviewer asked him was very surprising. She said, this is a personal question. She said, just out of me. Now, this question caught me off guard personally. And the question was, if it was your last day and your life is ending and you met God and God asked you about your life and your work and with the girls, what would you tell him? The club owner was silent. He then stood up, he lit a cigarette and said, I know I'll go straight to hell, at the very least. And then he turned and walked out of the room. This is a wealthy club owner in Lebanon. The interviewer said the pimp may have accepted his fate, but here in Lebanon, there are many potential customers still hope to find favor with God. So while I made no mention of male Christians, their faith is the same. Some are forced into fighting with the kidnappers, carrying bombs around their waist, and forced prostitution. That's right, boys. And if not, they are killed. To him, each is a death sentence anyway, regardless. So as the market here changes, the pimp comes up with new scams to keep the clients coming. They include selling sex under the guise of this land. In other words, you should thank us because you're in our land and you're in safety. Guys, I'm going to say this, and I know it's at a moment when having time to watch it, type it, watch it, type it. These are Christians that have been persecuted in Syria and then wherever they flee to. I would ask that our president pick some people who can do some very good vetting process and quick vetting process so that those who are not a liability or a danger to the United States and those who have fled Syria, Yemen, Somalia, and other countries, I would vet those people first. When you back up and get to Somalia or Yemen, for example, Yemen, the governor or the president of that country, up until he was taken out 2 years ago, he was using the state train railway to transport 50,000 women each year into Saudi Arabia, where they flooded from Saudi Arabia all the way through, even into Russia. And the closest place they've come to us, right here. Those sold into slavery from the president of Somalia, some live in our country that you'll never see outside the house, but they're here. We need to really take that at heart and pray about that. I didn't realize it was that bad. I mean, I knew it was bad. What's worse than death? Well, the girl said she'd rather take the beatings than the rape. The next one I'm going to read is it's the same, but a little bit worse. Jody Wolf Expoz.